Hey everybody, this is Greg, and we're doing another Q&A question answering session regarding tornadoes. And these are questions, like I've said in my previous videos, that people have actually asked me these questions, or I feel that people would want to know some of these topics. So I kind of came up with some of these questions that I feel that people would want to ask, or even questions I have found on the internet. So let's go ahead and get started. What is a tornado? That is a question that gets taught or asked a lot. Is what is a tornado? What's the difference between a tornado and a twister? A twister is just a slang name for a tornado. It doesn't mean anything different. It's just a slang term. And tornado is basically defined as a violently rotating column of air that descends from clouds and makes contact with the ground. And it's a funnel shape. I can't really miss it. It's a huge funnel, and then it's got a tail, and the tail part is what's actually hitting the ground. Are tornadoes classified? Yes, they use what is called the Fujita scale or the EF scale, which is from 0 to 5. 0 is the lowest, 5 is the greatest. And once you hit the EF5s, those are over 200 miles an hour, and some tornadoes have been recorded at 300 miles per hour. But it's a scale that is used to estimate the wind speed and the intensity, and then it gives a rating between an EF0 to an EF5. What is the difference between a funnel cloud and a tornado? Funnel clouds has the shape of a tornado, but it's not a tornado until it reaches the ground. And then as it reaches the ground, it becomes a tornado. So a funnel cloud is what you see up in the sky, or it can even actually be more towards a rotating cloud. So a funnel cloud and a tornado cloud are pretty much the same thing. It just rotates, and then it can kind of dissipate. But then once it becomes a tornado is when that tail comes down and starts the destruction, then that becomes a tornado. So that's the difference between a funnel cloud and a tornado. Funnel cloud, again, is what you see up above in a rotation sense. And then once it comes down with the tail, then it becomes a tornado. How far distance wise can a tornado go? Very good question. Tornadoes can travel over 50 miles. So it could actually be on the ground and move for 50 miles. I honestly didn't even know that. That's amazing. And that's why, especially like with EF5 tornadoes, there's just so much destruction because not only the powerful, but how long the trail goes. So up to 50 miles. That's impressive. Can a tornado exceed over 100 miles per hour? Yes, there has been tornadoes that have been recorded that have been over 300. When is tornado season? Not only here in the United States, but around the world. In the United States, it typically starts between April and June. And depending where you are in the Midwest, sometimes the peak can be April to May. Sometimes it could be May to June. Here in Illinois, where I'm in, our peak time is June to July area. But we have had a lot of tornadoes actually this year, considerably a lot. And it's already been in the hundreds of the tornadoes that have been recorded here in Illinois. And this even goes as early as February. So it can get a little bit earlier and it can even be late, but indirectly here in the United States, it's generally between April and June. And again, in the Midwest, it kind of shifts a little bit more like May to June, July, depending on where you are. Um, if you are in Europe, it is basically June to August. In Australia, now remember, Australia is backwards. So when we are in our fall and winter months, it's spring and summer down there. So their tornado season is actually in Australia. It's more like January, February, March on our time because again, it's opposite seasons. Um, so that's kind of interesting. So here we are in January, February, we're having a blizzard and they're having a tornado in Australia. But again, the seasons are backwards. Um, China is July and August. Japan can be between May and October. Germany is mainly in July. And in Africa, it could be November to March. And again, Africa is down by the southern equator. So again, it's kind of a little bit backwards down there as well. Where is Tornado Alley in the United States? Well, Tornado Alley is mainly in the right, almost in the middle of the country, the Midwest, and that will take in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota, the southern part of South Dakota. That's Tornado Alley. Statistically, now, the National Weather Service and the Severe Center has said the Tornado Alley is now shifting to the east. So now it's adding Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So, as you can see through the years as time goes on with the climate change, the temperatures, the fronts, Tornado Alley is actually moving more towards the east. But mainly it is in the Midwest. What spawns tornadoes? The big one are supercell thunderstorms. Tornadoes are generally spawned by, of course, warm and humid weather, which sparks the supercells, and then it turns into a tornado. Now we get into the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning. Okay. These two, and like I mentioned in my severe thunderstorm Q&A, a lot of people get the watches and the warnings mixed up, and I totally understand why. What a tornado watch means is conditions are favorable either in the watch area or around the watch area, close to the watch area, for development of tornadoes. Basically, the ingredients is ready. The ingredients is there to start a tornado. Not all the time a tornado will break out. You can be very, very lucky. There could be some sort of a wind shift, cool air that might come in to that watch area, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, we're canceling the watch. That's actually a good thing. But basically, when a watch is pretty much set, that means any time between the time that the watch is goes into effect to the time it's expired, there can be development of tornadoes. That ingredients is there or it's turning into it. You know, you got to have those ingredients to make that tornado break out. And that's the time where you want to be on alert. So a watch would be preparedness. You know, you look for the skies, um, the changing of the weather conditions, look up above the skies if it's starting to turn still. If there's a greenish color, rotating clouds, then that's an indication that there could be a possible tornado forming. Now, when the warning comes in, this is where you take action. Take cover. And that's when a tornado has actually been spotted by a trained spotter or an indication on radar. That's when all the alerts will come out, tornado sirens will be going off, and that's when you take action. So, again, a watch is be aware, prepare. A warning is when you take action. Okay, that's the difference. What kind of alerts do you recommend having for tornadoes? Same thing I said in my video with the severe thunderstorm Q&A. Make sure you have as many alerts as possible. Tornadoes do occur at night, and if you are a sound sleeper, there are alerts that you can get, like vibrators or vibrations, where you can put underneath your pillow. So when a warning does come out, it will vibrate your pillow or vibrate your bed. It's pretty interesting. And those are good for people with disabilities, which I highly recommend, especially if you have a hard time hearing. Those would be good to have, and it's something connected. If there's a warning, it goes off, and then there's a vibration that will get you up and out and take cover. Um, and so you want to have one of those, especially if you have a hard time hearing, and also if you're a sound sleeper. Other alerts that I recommend is making sure you have all your apps. You can get that in your Play Store on your cell phone, like your local news. Some of your local news agencies may have their own apps. You want to download those. The National Weather Service for your area. You might even want to download your county, your city, state emergency management agencies, your local police, your local fire department, state police. The more, the better. Because if one goes out, you have another one that you can rely on. Also, cell phones have notifications and alerts embedded in their phones, and you just go into this, the settings of your cell phone, and then you go into notifications, and then there's all these different things that you could um, put in for notifications, especially when it regards to weather. And that's another thing. Other than your phone, you got the internet. But again, remember, if you do have a tornado or severe weather, it will and might knock out your power. So don't always rely on the internet, but it's something good to have at the beginning stages. If you have a radio, like an AM FM radio with batteries, make sure you have extra batteries. You can listen to your local radio. Weather radios, you got some that have batteries, some that have a crank. You can get those from your local hardware store. I think Walmart or some retailers have them, and even the Red Cross gives them out as well. And even some emergency management agencies you want to contact or find out if they have a radio, because some of them will give them out for free. Um, so those are the different types of alerts you want to have. And I always recommend to everybody have more than one way of an alert. So for instance, have an alert on your phone, have a battery radio ready, have the internet ready. The more, the better. And then also, we all pretty much in our communities have a tornado siren. And when you hear those go off, then you know something is coming. So make sure you have more than one alert. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, what's the best place to go to shelter for a tornado? Very good question, because this can bring in a lot of different things here. If you have a basement, go down to the basement. I can't stress that enough. That's the best place to go, in a basement. And in the basement, what I would do is hunker down in a corner. There's with no windows, somewhere tight. And if you have like mattresses, blankets, hard tables, make sure you go underneath that to protect you. If you have somebody in your family that's a construction worker that have hard hats, wear those too. You know, those are great as well. Um, have a flashlight with you. Make sure your emergency supply kit is with you down there. I know some people that have emergency kits in their cars. They'll have it on the, if they have like a two-level house, they got one on the second level, they got one on the first level, they got one on the basement. If you only have one, make sure you bring it down to the basement with you because you'll need all that in case something does happen. Um, Make sure you know where your pet is. Get your pet down there. Make sure your pet has enough food and water because you might be trapped down there for a while. So the basement is a great place to be. Don't just sit there and walk around the basement. Okay, you know, having a fun time playing video games, or make sure you take it seriously that you're getting into a corner, you have your supplies, you're covered and protected. Um, and again, have your notifications. That way you know when it's clear to come out of shelter. Um, and the big thing is, I always recommend make sure you have a jacket with you because sometimes after the tornado, cool air might come in, especially if you go outside an adventure. Make checking damage or if you need to get out of there. And also have a pair of shoes, boots with you. I know sometimes things happen so quickly. We run down to the basement. It's like, oh shoot, you know, I forgot my shoes. I forgot my slippers. Well, if you have to go out and in a hurry, you know, or escape or something, you don't have your shoes, then you're kind of in trouble. So make sure you have your shoes and um, slippers with you as well. So that way you have something covering your feet. If you don't have a basement, go to the lowest level of your home or your workplace. If you're like working in a high rise building, you live in a high rise building, get to the lower level as you possibly can. You know, on the first level, you can hide into a closet, hide into an interior room. Again, try to do anything you can to cover yourself. Um, they also recommend, if you don't have those places, to be in a hallway and line yourself up in a hallway against the wall and cover your head. You're kind of like in a kneeling position. You're covering your head and tucking your head into your legs for protection. That's another, you know, especially if there's a large number of people, like if you're working in a high rise building or at a school, that they recommend that. Also in a bathroom, you can go into the bathtub, take again things that could cover you, mattress, blankets, and just duck down into the bathtub. Some people have areas where they can go underneath stairwells. That's another place you can go. Something that's very, very sturdy that you know you won't get hurt from. So, and again, protect yourself. If you're in a motorhome or a trailer, get out of there. I do not recommend you staying in a trailer or a motorhome because a tornado will take that and throw it. Okay, it's like a little toy. You know, when you're a child, you know, and you're a kid, you take your toys and you just throw it. You know how easy that is. That's exactly what the force of the wind of a tornado is going to do. It's going to take up that trailer, that motorhome, and throw it. You want to be out of there. That means go into a ditch. If there is no place to go, go into a ditch, lie in a ditch. Same scenario as you are in a hallway. Duck down, cover your head in between your legs, cover your head. I keep stressing that. Cover your head to protect you from flying debris. Also, if you know there's a tornado watch, remember, prepare yourself. You live in a trailer, you live in a motorhome. Know where your closest interior buildings are and then say, oh, there's a warning going on. Okay, that's where I'm going. You want to stay away from those trailers. I cannot stress that enough. And also, the last result, don't take cover in your vehicle as well. You can take cover in your vehicle during severe thunderstorms, especially like high winds and stuff, but not a tornado. Same scenario, it will take that and throw that car away. You do not want to do that. So again, take shelter in an interior building and protect yourself. I cannot stress that enough. Okay. How do I know when a tornado is coming? Again, pretty much all the alerts will tell you. They'll guide, and let you know where that tornado is. Also, if you're like a farmer, you pretty much know because you can tell by pressure. The pressure changes, wind changes, the color of the sky changes, sounds. Some people say, that have encountered a tornado, it sounds like a freight train. So listen to all of those different things. When was the deadliest tornado? The deadliest tornado here in America was back on March 18th, 1925. It was known as the Tri-State Tornado because it went through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, more of the southern parts. 695 people were killed and 2,756 people were injured. And they said the winds were over 200 to 300 miles an hour, which was equal to an EF5. And remember, tornadoes back in those times, we didn't have the alerts like we do now. So a lot of the alerts were coming from your ears and your eyes. Hearing sounds, like I said, sounds like a freight train, pressure coming into your ears, and then looking across the sky, seeing the rotating clouds, the change in color. Because back in those days, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have many radios, especially on the farmlands. So a lot of it was done by visual and hearing. And the last thing I want to mention here is again, if you have anybody that you work with, that you live with people with disabilities, make sure they know what's going on and communicate with them. Also, if they live or work alone, don't forget about them. Check up on them. Let them know, hey, we got inclement weather coming in. We have a tornado watch going on. This is what you need to do. And if you have to go over there, pick them up, bring them back to your location, or stay with them. If you can, stay with them, be with them so they're not alone. Because people with disabilities act totally different than people that are normal and healthy. And they react differently, and they need a little bit more help of escaping and help moving around, and especially to shelter. So again, check on your people with disabilities if they live with you, if they live far away, or work with you, and also the elderly as well. This concludes the Q&A. If you have any more additional questions that you want me to answer, make sure you comment down below. I will also list these questions below the video, so you kind of look at the questions and then try to find it in the video. And we'll have more of these in the near future. But we are in the severe weather time, so that's why I'm trying to get out the severe thunderstorms, information, tips, Q&A for both the severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. Again, be safe out there, and also when a tornado has been cleared or you've been cleared from severe weather, be cautious. Be cautious of going out if there's damage, especially from debris and down power lines, because we don't want to get hurt. That's another area where people get very seriously injured and even deaths because of things falling down and that you're not expecting. So again, I hope these questions were good and these answers. And again, if there's anything else you want me to answer, please ask me down below. Thank you. Take care and keep an eye out for those severe weather and tornadoes and be safe out there. Good day, everybody.